Make a list of everything good in your life, then ask who else gets a vote on it. The job's on the list, and somebody else decides whether you keep it. Your health's on it, and a scan decides. Your reputation belongs to strangers. The person you love is on it, and they decide, quietly, every day, whether they still do. Every one of them sits on somebody else's terms. Spinoza thought exactly one good escapes that list, and this is what he moved to get there. Stoicism has a famous answer to the same problem, and it genuinely works. He doesn't refute it. He moves it again, and the second move survives things the first one doesn't. There's a catch, and he put it in the last sentence of his book rather than the first. I'll give you that straight rather than the easy version. Most of what gets written about this ends up sounding like a technique. It isn't one, and nobody has 5 steps for you. What's actually on offer is an argument, and an argument is harder to use and harder to lose. Start with why the list makes you tired, because the answer isn't obvious. It isn't that any single item might break, it's that keeping all of them running requires a low-grade defense you never quite finish. You maintain the job, you maintain the body, with sleep and exercise and the appointments you keep putting off. You maintain how you're seen, which costs the most, because the audience keeps changing and never publishes the criteria. Nothing on that list is yours in the sense you'd want it to be. It's on loan, and the lender never states the terms. And you can't opt out by caring less, which is the advice people reach for. Caring less about your health doesn't make the scan matter less. It only means you meet it worse prepared. Here's the part that catches people, and it caught me. The tiredness isn't produced by things going wrong at all. It's produced by the maintenance while every one of them is going right, which is why a good week can still empty you out. You spend it holding a dozen things in position, and holding costs the same whether or not anything falls. The Stoics saw this with great clarity, and their answer is one of the most useful sentences anybody has written down. Epictetus opens the handbook by sorting the world into 2 piles. Some things answer to you, and most things don't. Your judgments, your intentions, what you do in the next 10 seconds, those are yours. Everything else, including your body, your reputation, and the people you love, is borrowed and always was. So put your good in the first pile where nothing outside can reach it. Give that its full weight. It's true. It travels, it costs nothing, and it works inside the 4 seconds when somebody says the thing that lands. A person who genuinely holds it is harder to knock over than a person who doesn't, and that shows up in a life. It travels across situations in a way most advice doesn't, too. The same sentence works for a delayed flight and for a diagnosis, which is rare enough to be worth respecting. I'm not building toward telling you the Stoics got this wrong, because they didn't. But notice what the move actually does. It relocates your good from the world into your own will. Everything on the far side of that wall stays exactly as fragile as it was. You've stopped depending on it, which is a genuine gain, and you haven't gained anything new. There's also a cost the enthusiasts don't always say out loud. Once your good lives and your judgments, those are what you have to guard. The maintenance doesn't vanish. It moves indoors. Marcus Aurelius was writing these reminders to himself at night while running an empire, which tells you the work never closes. That isn't a criticism of him. It's the shape of the thing. You go from defending your reputation to defending your own composure. And the second job is quieter, but it never closes either. I suspect that's why the practice can start to feel like effort in a way it was never supposed to feel. You can end up standing guard over your own calm, which is a strange way to be free. Spinoza takes the same problem and moves the good somewhere else again, not into your will, into your understanding. His claim is that the one thing genuinely yours is what you actually comprehend, and that comprehension has 3 properties nothing else on your list has. Take them one at a time, because each does real work. First, it needs nobody's cooperation. Nobody grants it and nobody signs it off. When you follow why something holds, the following happens in you, and there's no committee. Second, it can't be confiscated. Somebody can take the job, the name, and eventually the body. Nobody can take an understanding out of you because there's no object there to seize. None of the 3 are claims about how you'll feel, incidentally. They're claims about what kind of thing an understanding is, which is why the argument stays checkable instead of inspirational. The third property is the strange one, and it's the one that separates this from every self-improvement version of the same idea. It grows when other people have it too. Stay on that third one because it inverts the entire structure. Everything else on your list is rivalrous. If somebody else gets the job, you don't. If they get the apartment, you don't get the apartment. Your holding depends on their not holding, which is exactly why the arrangement exhausts you and why it carries that faint shame nobody admits to. Understanding runs the other way entirely. If the person sitting next to you sees something clearly, you are not further from it. You're nearer, because now there's somebody to think alongside. Spinoza says this outright rather than leaving it implied. He argues that the highest good is common to everyone who can reach it, and that nothing is more useful to a person than another person who's also reasoning. That isn't a warm sentiment bolted onto a cold system. It falls out of what the good already is, which also means the competitive reflex you feel around it is a category error. Nobody has ever been beaten to an understanding. The thing was never scarce. Now the sentence everybody quotes and almost nobody finishes reading to the end. Blessedness is not the reward of virtue, but virtue itself. Look at what that refuses. It refuses the whole arrangement where you do the hard thing now and collect afterward, which is the shape of nearly every promise ever made to you, religious or otherwise. There's no afterward here. The understanding isn't a payment issued for good behavior. It is the state, and while you're in it, you're already being paid. He isn't saying virtue feels nice either. He's saying the two words were always pointing at one thing, and that pulling them apart was the mistake. So the question quietly changes. You stop asking what this will get you and start asking whether you're doing it. Here's the spine of everything on this channel. Stoicism tells you to accept what you can't control. Spinoza tells you why. You can't control most of it because you were never the thing standing outside it, issuing requests. And once that lands, the acceptance stops being a discipline you keep up. It's just what's left when the mistake goes. So what does this look like on an ordinary Tuesday for somebody who's never going to read the ethics? It looks like following one thing all the way down instead of collecting 40 things halfway. It looks like the difference between knowing you get anxious in the evenings and understanding the mechanism that produces it, which is a different mental event and feels different from the inside. It looks like reading something twice. It looks like being willing to be slow. Most of what we call learning is really collecting, and collecting moves faster, feels better, and leaves nothing behind. Nothing on your list has to change for this. You keep the job, you keep worrying about the scan, and you keep wanting that person to go on choosing you. The claim was never that the list stops mattering. It's that there's now one item on it nobody else has a vote on, and having that changes how tightly you have to grip everything else. And then he does the thing I've come to trust him for. He ends the book. The final sentence of the Ethics, after 5 parts of geometry and God and the affects, is this: all things excellent are as difficult as they are rare. That's the catch, and he put it in the last line rather than the introduction, which tells you he knew exactly what he was doing. There's no method here, which is probably why the book has outlasted 3.5 centuries of people wanting it to be simpler than it is. There's a direction and an admission that almost nobody travels far along it. I find that more trustworthy than the alternative, because anybody offering you unshakable peace in 5 steps is selling the precise thing Spinoza refused to sell. So go back to the list. Everything on it is still held on somebody else's terms, and nothing about that has changed since you started watching. What's changed is that you can add one item nobody gets a vote on, and the only way to lose it is to stop.